so we can get started.
Okay, we can. Only problem is I'm doing this from my cell phone and not my laptop, which is weird. So I can't enable it on my laptop, but I can do that on my phone. So let's do it from my phone. I hope you guys don't mind. Can you all hear me? Hi.
Hi, we can hear
Hi.
you.
My name is Emy Josephs. As I have been introduced, I am super excited to be here today. Um, I don't know where to begin. This is such an honor um, to be sharing with you all I have learned over the years as a storyteller. I like to call myself a storyteller more than I like to call myself a writer or a producer, because I feel like at the end of the day, we are all storytellers. Whether you're a director or a producer, a writer, a marketer, whatever you are, you're telling stories. And I always often say to people that storytelling is one way to change narratives. What I mean by that is, if I tell you a story today about someone, no matter how much you care about that person or how much you love that person, and how much you would say, "Oh no, this didn't affect me. I still care about this person regardless." What I have told you, your subconscious would soak in that knowledge or that information, and it would further influence how you react, how you behave, and how you interact with the person that I spoke to you about. So that's how powerful stories are. Um, and I feel like it's one way that we can, create the world that we want to see, by the stories that we tell, by the experiences that we have, and how we share those experiences. So, yes, I'm really excited about this. And I'm going to jump into the class. I hope that the names that I see here are your first names, and I can use them to like throw questions or um, or make illustrations, right? Um, so, as I've been introduced, my name is Emy. I am a storyteller, and I've been telling stories for as long as I can remember. I'd like to start today's class with an introduction. Let me share my screen. Mm, so share audio, devices, audio, continue. Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen and uh, am I sharing my screen now?
Not yet. It's not up yet.
Okay. Mm, my question. Continue. Okay. Start broadcast. It's up now, right?
Yes, it's coming up.
Okay. Okay, so I can leave here and go to uh, mm, see how I am just exposing myself and the whole world is seeing my personal. Thank you. This is what I want to share. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we're jumping right into it, nose diving. I'd like to talk about telling compelling stories. I know that um, the topic that I have been asked to speak about is filmmaking and how we can tell stories. Um, but I'd want to go specifically to talk about how we can tell compelling stories. The reason why I chose this topic, because I feel like it encompasses, for those that follow, that saw my post about this class, you see that I talked about, I made an outline of the things I'd like to talk about. And I feel like what I am about to share sort of like encompasses the whole, if you understand what I'm saying, everything that I want to talk about in essential. So the for me, it's about telling compelling stories, and I'm going to give a lot of examples to further, expatiate on what I mean. I feel like the biggest problem we have in the world, in Nollywood, in film, is the problem of telling stories that are compelling. So you have a great idea, but how do you tell this story that is compelling enough for people to sit through, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. If you are a marketer or if you're in PR, how do you tell a story with a commercial or an ad, and people want to sit through it? People want to watch it. Growing up, there are ads and commercials that we listen to, and we remember them, because of how captivating and how the stories that they told were compelling. I don't know if you know that peak milk one where this guy was like, what they said to this guy, JJ, I know say one day you go make us proud. I feel like a lot of people remember this this ad because of how compelling the story and the growth the character experienced throughout the 2 minutes or 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 minute 30 seconds ad. And the big question that we've always had in this industry is, how is it that we cannot replicate um, this in modern times? How is it that we cannot tell stories as authentically as they used to be told? And I feel like the problem is because we do not tell compelling stories. That's the problem. And you might agree or you might disagree. I hope that you agree. Yeah. So that we can all enjoy from this class. The problem that we're facing is because we're not telling compelling stories. So the question is, how do we tell compelling stories? 6 things I'll be doing today. I'll be talking about crafting compelling stories. I'm talking about the 3-act structure. I'm talking about the Dan Hammond's story structure that has 8 steps. I'll also be talking about creating. Can you guys see this, or you want me to expand it? I'm struggling to see myself, so let me just do that.
If you expand it, then you will lose some parts of the
Right?
presentation. Yeah.
Okay, so
Because
let's proceed it this way.
yes.
Okay, so crafting compelling stories, 3-act structure, the Dan Amon story structure that takes 8 steps into how you can tell compelling stories.
Okay. Sorry, Amy, I'm sorry to cut you off. So I think that the way that it's currently being presented isn't very clear
Oh,
for
really?
participants. Yes. So the Tosin says, please expand and show one slide at a time. Is that possible to do?
I'm doing so. The issue again, the issue is I'm doing this from my phone. Or do you want? Do I send it to you? Before
Yes, drop it in the chats and then I will yeah, you can drop it in the chats, continue, and then I'll share it so we can switch over to my screen.
So I had to come out of here to be able to drop it in the chats for you. So let me minimize this.
Okay.
Let me minimize this and send to you. Sorry guys, I have too much. Let's see that.
Sharing your screen actually while you do that, if that's okay.
Sorry?
You can stop sharing your screen so that you
Okay.
just, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Okay. We're almost there now. Choose some files. Okay. Okay, so I think I am sending to you right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
I intend to share.
Okay.
So in order for me not to disrupt, you can continue with what you were sharing, and then when mine comes up, we can then just switch over.
Sorry, I didn't know I was muted.
Yeah.
So back to what I was saying, I was talking about crafting compelling stories. I was talking about the 3 act structure, the Dan Harmon story structure, and I said there are 8 steps to the Dan Harmon story structure. I also talked about creating memorable characters and crafting engaging plots, and then after that, the idea of building conflict and tension in storytelling. The objective of this class, what I expect, is that at the end of the class, each and every one of you or would understand the structure and story development for screenwriting and storytelling. I feel like this is something that would equip you with the right tools that are necessary to create compelling narratives. And I expect that there'll be active participation because, of course, I said this is supposed to be like an interactive class. It's storytelling. It's not a conversation, a one-way conversation. I hope that I inspire creativity and originality. I expect that you're able to explore your voices and your unique ways of telling stories. Okay, fantastic. So let's go to today's lesson. Can we skip to slide 4? Thank you. Okay, so when we talk about crafting compelling stories, I feel like we cannot talk about this without talking about the fact that there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between structure and creativity, and there has to be a knowledge of what the structure of storytelling is. Um, it is only when you know the rule that you're allowed to break it. But when you don't know it and you break it, it's a problem. So when you know the rule and you've been able to use and apply the rule, you can now go on to break the rule. One thing that often happens is people forget that there's a rule to telling stories. And while you are adhering to these storytelling principles, it's essential that you embrace the innovation and the risk and everything and every. But first of all, know the rule. What is the rule of telling compelling stories? How do I tell stories that are compelling first? And then what are the people who have been able to tell compelling stories? How did they go about it? When you've answered these questions and you followed the principles, the structure, then you can now apply your creativity. Now, great stories often emerge from pushing boundaries and exploring new narratives and territories. In the end, the most compelling stories are those that resonate with the audience on a personal level. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say we want to tell a story of a boy meets girl. Boy meets girl stories are the classic romance stories. This guy meets this girl, they fall in love, blah, blah, blah. They get married and they have kids. This is a basic story. Nothing added to it. Storytelling at its basic form. But imagine that I start the story by saying, this boy meets this girl. This boy was walking on the road and he met this girl walking on the road. And then he now told the girl, how are you? I like you. And the girl said, oh, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. And then the boy is like, oh, thank God that you are fine. I like you. Let's be in a relationship. The girl now said, oh, okay, let's be in a relationship. The girl now says, oh, now we're in a relationship. The boy now says, oh, I like you so much that we're in this relationship. Let's marry. She now say, oh, yes, so let's marry. They now marry. They now give birth to children. I seen how monotonous, how, for lack of a better word, boring what I'm saying sounds. So the only when you understand that there's a beginning, which is of course the 3 act structure, there's a beginning of a story, there's the middle, and there's the end. Simple. That's how it is. In the beginning, we need to meet this character. When we meet this character, we need to know who this character is. We need to know what this character wants. We need to know what this character needs. We need to know what is stopping this character from getting what they need. We need to know what the character is doing to wiggle or remove himself or herself from whatever it is that is their limitation. And then we need to see how this character comes out of that, right? That's what must happen in the beginning, in the first act. When you get into the second act, we're pushing out from who this character is. We're now saying, okay, what is this character's problem? What does this character want? Oh, this character wants this. Oh, great. So what is stopping her from getting what she wants? XYZ. Oh, okay. You're now trying to get into the nitty-gritty, the dirty works of storytelling. So now the same story I told you before, let's make it more interesting. So this boy whose father died when he was, let's say, 5, right? All his life he's never experienced love. His father died and he gets pushed from auntie to uncle, from auntie to uncle, from auntie to uncle, and he's never experienced real love because all the families he's been living with, they've never really shown him love. They've only taken him as a responsibility, and they've never actually shown him what it is to be in a family. So this boy has lived all his life by himself, and you can say that he's traumatized. Let's say we even add a layer of trauma to him, which is why he was growing up, something like we call it a ghost in storytelling. We say this person has a ghost. Almost every one of us have a ghost. Compelling characters have ghosts. Now, those ghosts is what will influence the reality of the person. Now, I would say that everything you've experienced in your life is the reason why you are who you are today. Is the reason why you're making the decisions that you're making. Storytelling is psychoanalysis. It is psychological. If I know what happened to you when you were 3 years old, I will know, or I will have a better idea of who you are. And that's how we create characters. Because there's no compelling story without compelling characters. So this young man, let's go back to our story. The young man is we said he's an orphan, moved from home to home. Nigeria, we don't have foster. Even I would have said what you call it, orphaned, and he was moved from foster homes, but we don't have that exactly. So he's living aunties and uncles, and then he finds himself on the street. Aunties beating him. He's had a rough past. Think of this young man as the boy under Ojuelegba Bridge that is shouting Saboyaba, 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 not because he's homeless, but because the circumstances that surrounded him has pushed him out. Uncles that are always, trying to make him, according to Timaya, according to Bonner Boy, Nami de Bando Nunu, Nami de wash on a house, Nami de clean on a car. So that lifestyle and always being battered and beaten every time, this boy runs out into the streets and he starts living on the streets. This same boy, the only way he possibly could take care of himself and finance the life that he wants for himself is to start stealing. So he's stealing small pickpockets there. He's helping to call Saboyaba the load boss. And before you know it, he starts doing drugs. So we're looking at this is our classic underdog story. So this boy is yes, I hope I've been able to paint a vivid picture. That's where our boy is, right? And let's make it interesting. Let's say he's 23. But there's something this boy wants. What does he want? Let's say he wants to be, what will be interesting now? Let's say he wants to be a footballer. That's what he actually wants to do with his life. In fact, we can layer this by saying while he was with his parents, that's something that he had wanted. He had wanted to do football, and his parents were actually very supportive of his career. But after they died, that career got cut short. Let's also make it interesting and say, so everything I'm doing right now is to introduce you to a compelling character. So that when this boy falls in love, in fact, let's say, I said he saw a girl and he liked the girl. Let's say it wasn't him that saw the girl. It was the girl that saw him and liked him, and they became friends. I feel like the story, the narrative we're going to see from a couple, because we know where the boy is coming from, we know his backstory, and we know what led to what. Every decision that he would make, every conversation, it would greatly affect the person that he is now and the relationship he has. So when he starts maybe beating the girl, you will not be afraid to understand, okay, why is this happening? Because I actually quite believe that most of the people who have this kind of situation, who are exposed to what I have just explained, there's trauma, right? There's trauma. So we're still talking about telling compelling stories And how we can do that is by creating compelling characters. I'm jumping through my slides because, of course, like I told you, when it comes to storytelling, everything is like cooking a pot of soup. Everything, the pepper, the salt, is the way you throw it in. At the time you throw it in, that's when it would matter. So going on, understanding this whole thing deeper, I already started the first act. Let's go to the next slide. Understanding the lesson deeper. Yes. So the first act is the setup, as I explained. In the setup, what we want to do is we want to introduce this character, like what I'm saying. So we have the boy. We know that his family died, his parents died. We know that he had to move out to uncle. We know that they were treating him badly. We know that he ran away from home. We know that he's now under Ojuelegba Bridge, and he's loading boss. He dey thief sometimes. He dey, he dey pickpocket. He don't dey smoke. He don't dey drink. His voice is now, more ghetto. He's already very rusty. That's the beginning. So when we meet this character, we see all this. All this is I'm saying should happen in like 2 to 3 scenes. So you have already told us all the story about this person. Then the next thing you want to tell us is its primary. You want to tell us the what this character wants, what is stopping him. He might say it, or it might not. You might show it. You might decide that, I don't want the character to say anything about his wants. I want him to show it. So you might either show it so we can see a scene where a character is walking past our character is walking past a football store, and he stands and he looks at it. But the way he stands and looks at this football shop where they have the shoes, the outfits and everything, the way he stands and looks at it, you're already telling yourself, it's like, this boy, this is what he wants to do, or he likes it. Or we can have a scenario where he's doing his gra. He don't load bus finish, he don't go smoke for one corner, and he's going home, and you see him pass a football field, and you see the way he looks at the people playing ball, and you just know in that moment that, like, say, this boy in a ball, they hungry. You get what I'm saying? That's how we set it up. We call that the setup. That's the first act. Now, the reason why we do this, the primary purpose, is so that we can engage the audience, set the tone, and hook their interest. That's why often we have a teaser at the opening of every great story. The teaser is so that you'll be like, okay, what's happening here? Sometimes you see the first thing they do is somebody will just die. You're like, is it not this day that, what's here? Why should she don't die? She don't die. You understand? We move swiftly because we need to hook. The first 3, 10, 15 minutes of the film is very important. I say 3 because if it's a series of like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, in like 3 minutes, 1 minute, if you don't hold them, somebody will be like, change the channel, that film not sweet. Do you understand? So in the first 3 minutes, in the first 10 minutes, or in the first 15 minutes, you hold people and they sit down and they're like, okay, this film, let's sit down and watch. That's why we do the setup. The setup introduces the character, shows you the person's problem, shows you who this person is, shows you the person's life, shows you what the person wants, and then, possibly shows you what the character's goals. You understand the character. You know what the character wants. You know what the character is chasing. You have an idea. And subconsciously, you might not know it, but you are now comfortable and you're saying, okay, I'm going to watch this film. All right, so that's for the setup. Let's go to the next slide. The next one is the act 2 of the story, which is the confrontation. Now, there's no story without a confrontation. No, there's not. There's no story without boss. We need to know which person's head are we breaking, who are we, which person's blood is pouring on the floor. What is happening in this film? What is happening in this film? How are we starting this story? We need to know. So in that act, which usually is the longest part of the story, we need to know what the character is doing to overcome their problems. Now, in the act 1, before we end it, there's something we call the inciting incident. Now, we know this guy. We know he wants to play football. The question now is, what is stopping him from playing football? Nobody. Because normally, they will tell you that you are your only limitation. So, guy, you want to play football. What is the issue? You now show us that, this is the problem that he has. Or what's the problem that he has? This boy, all the while I've been telling you this story, you did not know that this boy is crippled. You did not know he has one leg. So because he has one leg, that's already a physical limitation. He cannot play football with one leg. But if you think about it again, are you sure he cannot play football with one leg? Are there not people who are playing football with one leg? So what is the problem? What is this character doing? Pushing past his limitation, right? And then we now have what we call the inciting incident. The inciting incident is something that happens to the character that pushes him away from his goal. Remember, this guy wants to play football. Remember, he has one leg. Remember, he is still pushing despite the fact that he has one leg. But what if something else happens? And usually the inciting incident has nothing to do with our character. It's not in his making. It is something that will just remove him from his goal and push his attention towards something else. A classic example would be which story now? Which film would I use? Which film has a lot of us seen that I can use? Maybe tell me the films you've seen in the comment section, and let me use one of them. The first film I see is the one I will use if I've seen it though. Just tell me one film that you've seen that you like, that you think I must have seen, that you feel like we should use for this illustration. I am checking the chat. The first one I see, Brotherhood. Okay. So let's use Brotherhood. Now, when we meet a character, who say Barbie? God, I beg. So let's use Brotherhood. Thank you, Robosa. Let's use Brotherhood. So in Brotherhood, we meet our character. We know his problem. We know what is stopping him from getting what he wants. We know everything about the character. But we also know that he has a brother that is a thief. This one is a police officer. This one is a thief. The one that is a thief, normal, he just wants to make money. If he makes enough money, he's able to make his life better. And we already know what he wants to do with that money. Give me a second. Sorry. We already know what he wants to do with that money. Right? So our character comes off. We know he's a thief. We know his brother is a police officer. We already see the limitations. We already see the problem. And if I remember correctly, I think there was something about his mother being ill, which is what was the inciting incident. Or is that, am I talking about Brotherhood or a Tribe Called Judah? I think it's a Tribe Called Judah I'm talking about. Have we seen a Tribe Called Judah? Let me shift to that one because I think Brother was a bit hazy in my memory. So, all right, okay. So we have the character. We know that his mother is ill, and we know the situation with the mother's health. So we see that our of course in Brotherhood, I don't even know in a Tribe Called Judah. I don't know which one is the main character that we're following. So let's just follow all the 5 tribe of Judah, the 5 of them. So we see that the inciting incident that pushed each of them had their own goals. Each of them had what they wanted. Each of them, the one that was getting testimony, you know what he wanted with his girlfriend. He knows Wala. We know what Shino wanted. We know what, all of them had what they wanted, right? But then when their mother got sick, that was the inciting incident that pushed them towards going to rob. Does that make sense? Now, the inciting incident usually is supposed to push your character away, far away from what they originally wanted to do. So initially, they may have wanted to be a footballer, but now that this incident has happened, they will move away from their goal. Compelling stories are the stories that we will be able to still track what the character wants, despite the fact that the character has moved to their inciting. Do you understand what I'm saying? Even though the goal has changed, subconsciously, the kind of stories that are compelling are the ones where we see that our character has not lost sight of what they actually want to do. So what do they do in this area of confrontation? This is the longest part of the story. It is where you want to tell us the problem. You want to tell us what they do. You see how the 5 tribes of Judah, all of them, each of them planned. You see how they came together, how they planned, how each of them put things aside to be able to go for that robbery at the end of the story. That's what it is. Everything, that whole, the planning, the changing to colors, the getting the costume, the planning how they're going to enter inside the office, the stealing of all those ones, all the bubonier, that is what our act 2 is. And then when we have a very strong character, it is easy for you to follow them through a story. It is very easy because you know who this character is, you know what they want, and you can even preempt how they will react in certain situations. Of course, to make it interesting, we have subplots, we have secondary conflict. Small things might happen that will deter them from their goal, which is what they want, or what they are chasing. But then essentially we as storytellers try to zero into their emotions, and we try to zero into what they want and still make sure that they remain focused till the end of the story. But essentially, that's what happens in your second act. Then we go to the third act, which is of course the resolution. In A Tribe Called Judah, we remember that the second act was exactly where they got into the office, the complex, and they found that there was other people don't plan conceive to, nobody only them plan conceive. That's where we now hit the plan. That's where you want to carry the story to another level. Usually when you get to this kind of stories, you feel like, this boy, I'm so happy for him, he has married this girl, and then something happens. Because life is not like that, let's be honest. Nobody just, it's not a bed of roses. Things will keep coming at you. You keep pelting your characters, throwing them stones, throwing them, and watch how they navigate through all of that. So the third act is the climax and the resolution of the story. Usually at this point of the story, people are unraveling. You've already shown us what the problem, you told us what the character is doing to change their situation, and you're also showing us the conflict that the character now experiences while they are trying to come out of um, their major conflict, right? Yeah. So at this point, there needs to be closure. There needs to be closure for the audience. People need to resolve every issue that you've raised. If it is the issue of trauma from the boy's past, whatever you have raised from the character, you have to resolve it. You have to come to the end and tie all the loose, like dotting your I's and crossing your T's. At this point, you need to conclude the story. And the thing with stories is you're trying to tell us um what your opinion, so if a man, sometimes people will say, oh, I'm sure that it was a woman that wrote this story because she did not get the male innuendos because she's a woman. Sometimes you say, oh, this book, it be like saying a man write them because a woman cannot write something like this. This is because there are emotions and there are actions that are peculiar to a gender, and when you don't hit those things, people tend to understand that. That's when you hear people say, this film no sweet, this film no sweet. More often than not, we have a lot of problems in stories, but we don't end them. And that's when people will say, oh, I didn't like it, it was very bland, it was a very bland story. So even though the story is basic, because for the life of me, I don't think there's any story that is not basic, because when you break it down to the nitty-gritty, you find that it is just a boy meets girl story. Simple. In Brotherhood, it is just a boy that wants to thief, and then his brother came and caught it. That's it. Now police catch thief. Nothing again. Police catch thief. That's the film. If you look at it, if it is A Tribe Called Judah, and I think the same thing. Now police catch thief. Somebody went to see them catch him. He managed run. That's it. So when you break down stories to the barest minimum, to this basic form, you find that there are no stories that are, for lack of a better word, so different, so new. There's nothing new anymore, but it's how you tell it that makes it compelling. So if you put these things into practice, which is of course, I think the first move is to look for a compelling character driven stories where the characters know exactly what they're doing and you know exactly what you want the characters to do, are way much more stronger than stories where you just have characters that are just faffing around. I would like to look at some examples. Let's go to the next slide. These three films are one of my favorite films. They're one of my favorite films. I feel like the telling in these stories, I cannot even begin to explain it. The first one is Parasite. um the first one is Parasite. It's a story basically that talks about class structure, rich people, poor people, how rich people behave, how poor people behave. At the end of the day, What this film tells us is that all of us, we are the same. Whether you have money, you don't have money, we are the same. There's still that barbaric behavior, how the rich people see the poor people a type of way, and the poor people see the rich people a type of way. But at the end of the day, we all have blood flowing in our veins. That's what that film is about. If you've not seen The Trade, I feel like this is one of the best films out of Nigeria. The Trade, the story about police cash thief, like I said before. This guy that is a notorious criminal, and how he was doing his dirty dealings, and how at the end of the day he was caught. That's just it. But it is the way the story is told. If you've seen In Time, the story that tells you about time and how all of us, we are just aging. So in this film, if you've seen it, people stop aging at the age of 25, and then you have like a tattoo of time. You have to buy time. Everything about, it's time. So we have people, and again, that's basically a class structure. It's the same thing as Parasite looks at rich people, poor people. In the poor people side of the country, you see people walking fast. But in the rich people part of it, people are, they are chilling. Somebody is sipping tea because they have like 10,000 years. They have like 10 million years. They are not dying anytime soon. So basically, it's still the class structure. These are three movies that I feel like really, really follow characters, and these characters are compelling characters. And then it takes us through a journey, even though the story is like a basic story, but it takes us through a journey, and we come to appreciate and understand what the writer, the director, in fact, the filmmaker, for lack of a better word, wants us to understand from the story. Essentially, when you have compelling characters, it's easy to tell stories. It's easy to tell stories because when characters are compelling, it's easy for people to see the moral, maybe moral is not the word, but your opinion. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. The word is opinion. I feel like film stories are a way to tell people what I think about things. I think this should be banned. I think this is not right, so I want to tell a story about it. I would also say that essentially when you want to tell a story, I feel like I tell writers, young writers, people that reach out to me, filmmakers, tell a story you're passionate about. And how are you going to be passionate about something if you don't have an opinion on that thing? So spend a lot of time thinking about your own opinion. What do I think about this? I've observed and I've spoken to a lot of people. When you ask people, what do you think about, you know, um, the election in America? They will just the information they will give you will feel very, how should I put it? Will feel very, how on WhatsApp they'll say forwarded many times. That's how it feels. It just feels very unauthentic because this person has not sat down with his emotions or sat down with his thoughts long enough to have an opinion on this particular issue. Whatever it is they're telling you is recycled. They've heard it online, they read it somewhere, they thought about it somewhere, and that's why they're saying it. My sister and I talked about the election in America, and we disagreed on a few things. She doesn't think that Trump is a good candidate, and I didn't think that Hillary was a good, what's her name? Um, Kamala was a good candidate. I felt like it was potato, and I feel like I would have gone with the greater evil. The devil I know for me is better than the angel I don't know. And that's how it is. So if I have an opinion like this, I cannot decide, okay, I want to make a film about this because I feel so strongly about this topic. I want to tell a story about it. And then I go on to tell the story. If you're not passionate about it, it shows. It shows. If you're doing it, you're telling stories because you want to make money, it will show. People will know. You cannot hide it. People would know. So what I'm saying is, basically, when you want to tell stories, I think one of the first things you have to tick off the box is this a story that, do I have an opinion about this particular thing? And what is that opinion? Because in these three films I'm sharing with you, if you haven't seen them, please do see them. So they are old films. They're not even, new. I think that the writer and the director, they stayed with their emotions long enough to have an opinion about the issues that they raised in these stories, especially in Parasite and in Time, because The Trade is based on real events, So I wouldn't say for that one, I like the story, but I would say for Parasite and In Time, the writer, the director, the filmmakers, they actually sat with their emotions and they had an opinion and they actually shared it. I'm going to go very fast. The next one, We'll take questions. I also will take questions later. So let's just skip to the Dan Harmon story cycle. This is me wrapping up my class. I told you about the Dan Harmon story cycle. Next, please. Yes, this is what the story cycle is. I have a copy of it on my wall right here in my room because I like to look at it. It's the best way that I feel like I tell stories. Remember where I said it takes 8 steps to tell the story? The first one is you. When it gets to you, you establish your protagonist and the antagonist. Don't think he's only the actor and boss. Actor, tell us who the actor is, tell us who the boss is. Because one thing that we always do in stories as writers or as filmmakers or storytellers is when we take sides with our actor and our boss. Before you even start writing the story, you already hate the person that is playing antagonist. You don't like the character. So it will show in the way that you explain the reason why he's doing what he's doing. Everybody has a reason for doing what they're doing. Even the man that kills has a reason. You might not agree with it though, but that's your concern. But he has a reason. I feel like one of the greatest antagonists that has ever been created in film history is the Joker character. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's it for me. Because I know that this guy wants to take over the world. And I know why he wants to do it. It doesn't make sense to me, but I still know why he's doing it. And I feel that's what we do for every single person, every single character. So when it says here, establish your protagonist, also establish your antagonist and give us a reason. Why is he doing what he's doing? Always answer that question. When you tell us who the person is, establishing, remember when we started with the story about the young boy, you tell us, oh, he's a young boy, left home on the streets, cripple, show us everything. Show us what he wants. Show us why he cannot get it. Show us what is stopping him. Even if he's crippled, he can still play in the there's football for disabled people. So why is he not there? What's stopping him? Show us the whole thing. Then the next thing you have to show us is, what does this character need? Now, more often than not, the character does not even know what it needs. If I ask you now, what do you need? You might not know. You might not know. All you know is, oh, I want this. I want you. Yes. But the need is something is not right. Something is not right inside of you. So for the character that we created, or that I created, let's say he wants to play football. But with everything that has happened to him, and even though we didn't break down that character very well, what does the character need? What does the character need? Possibly, he needs to know that he's his only limitation. That's what he needs to know. So the fact that he's from a family that he's an orphan, the fact that he ran away from home, the fact that he needs to know that he's enough. And if he wants to be a footballer, he can. Nothing is stopping him from getting there. That's what he might need to know. So we focus on that, right? And usually the characters don't know. Sometimes they do. It depends on how you want to tell the story. I would say that interesting characters, they don't even know. They don't know they have this problem in their life, right? Then, of course, we go. Now that we know what the character wants, we have the inciting incident. This is when the character crosses the threshold to the other side to do what he needs to do. That's, of course, going against whatever it is that is standing in his way, right? The next one that happens is the search, the road of trials. There has to be, as I said, keep throwing stones at your characters. Don't make it easy for them. Always bring up something that is stopping them from getting to what they want. Push the goal, the light at the end of the tunnel far away from them as possible, and let them keep jumping obstacles until they get there. Don't make it easy for them. If it's easy, it makes it a not so fun watch. The next thing is find meeting the goddess. Usually, our character does not know what he needs. So in this 5, usually the character finds somebody who will not tell him, your problem. Your problem is that you don't have sense. And that's scary. You all have, maybe some of us have those friends. I have that friend that would always tell me, no, Amy, no, this one, no, my friend, this one, you fall my hand. So the person who would tell that character that, see, this is what you need to do. Sometimes in some movies, you will see the character will sleep and he will dream, and then you will see his father or his mother or somebody that he holds there. that will now tell him. For stories where you don't want to have an external goddess that would steer your character to the right hand, in those kind of stories, it depends on you again as a writer. In those kind of stories, that's what you do. You either the character, gets to a place of epiphany and realizes, oh, I should have done this. This is what I should have done. This is how I would have come out of this. Then the next thing that happens is take. Now that the character knows the problem, now that the character understands what he's not getting right, the character has to take action, pay the price. Usually it comes at a price. It's not easy. Any movie you've watched, if it is a compelling story, the character pays the price. The character pays the price. He has to pay the price to be able to come out of the problem that we started in the beginning, right? And then when the character pays the price, he brings it home. Now, usually some stories end in 6, some end in 7, some end in 8. You don't have to do all 8. You don't have to do all 8. Your character doesn't have to go through all the 8 journey, right? He can do 6, he can do 7, he can do 8. But no, he cannot do 5. No, he cannot do 5. Because after the character finds out what is wrong with them, find is the same thing as need. That's when the person is coming out of the chaos, when your character is coming out of that chaotic stage where he is, the chaotic journey, he has to come over and pay the price. So in stories where you see a character will not come back and beg for forgiveness, in some stories, it ends in take. The character comes and begs for, oh, I'm sorry, I did this, please forgive me. And then the person is forgiven. You can now bring it home in return, where the person, I think for this particular one, the kind of stories that do that is all those stories where the person has gone on this journey and then he's coming back home, and it's like coming of age stories. Yeah, stories where a character comes of age. That's when that usually happens. So you see the character return, having gone through the journey. And then lastly, the character, because he has gone through all this journey, character is now a master of both worlds. Character is a master of the world that he was in before, and now he's a master of the world that he went through. It's like what they say in life: you're going through things, you go through those things, and you've had experiences. So when you face those type of challenges, or you see people who face those challenges, you can tell them, oh, I've gone through this before, and this is what happened. Right? Basically, that's what the Dan Harmon story cycle is. If you're really serious about taking storytelling, I suggest you print this out and put it on your wall like I did. Frame it and put it there. Because sometimes when you're writing, you might lose track of what is what. When you have this, you always remember. I put sticky notes on mine so that when I'm telling a story, I put sticky notes so I keep track of the milestones I want the character to hit. Now imagine that. So in a standard story, we have in a standard story feature film, we have 70 scenes. Imagine they're doing 10 scenes of each, or 5 scenes of each of these. So you do 5 for you, 5 for need, 10 for crossing the threshold, 15, or it depends on how much material you have to work with. And then you get to, by the time you get here, you already have the number of scenes that you need to tell your story. That's if it's a feature. If it's a short, of course, you can, the same thing applies. So we've come to the end of today's class. So basically everything I've said so far is what it is. The 3-act structure. Remember, there's the act 1, act 2, act 3. Tell us the beginning of the story, who this character is. Tell us the beginning of the story, who this character is. You tell us the middle of the story, what is stopping this character from getting what they want, the exciting incidents, the journey they go on. And then, of course, you end it and you tell us how this character overcomes all of the challenges and all the problems that you've thrown their way. To end this, I would also say that I always suggest that you dig holes for your characters and you try to see what will make them not very strong. I don't know how to explain this better than I have done so far, but sometimes your characters are shallow. That happened to me. I just finished from a story conference, and my colleague and I, who were put on to create a character, we had a problem in that we wrote our character into a hole. Like, we gave her problem, to the point that the problems were not, it was not too much. So a head writer was like, Emy, you have written your character into a hole. Bring her out of this hole now. Bring her outside. She needs to come out. She's inside hole with everything you've done. Please bring her out. from the whole. And I think that happens to us. So in that case, I think what would, because we were up all night till like 3 a.m. trying to figure out how to like do this. And what really helped us was that we had a character that was tangible. What I mean by that is we built her in a way that she felt real, like a person. So you will not ask yourself, what would this character do if I was this character with everything I know? If I was not who I am and I am this person, what would I do? How would I come out of this? And then we're able to write her out of that. So I would say that in your writing, which is why I was suggesting that you always craft compelling characters. If you craft compelling characters, I think that it will be easy for you to write them out of whatever hole that you find yourself, because this will happen. I assure you it will happen in your telling. You would write the character into a hole, and then you will now find a way to bring the character out of that hole for some time, and all of that. So yeah, pretty much that's everything that I have for you guys today. Thank you so much. I will take questions. And that's it. Thank you for joining today's class. Yay! Thank you, Bofa. Back to you.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll have questions. I think Chloe has a hand raised, praise as well. So we'll just start. Let me open that up. So we'll
Okay.
just with praise, please go ahead. Yes, and Chloe next. Please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much. I'm excited to be in this class today. So, my question is it's not about telling story. My question is, how do you handle producers or directors like changing the narrative of your story? Because I actually wrote a script, and when it came out on YouTube, I found out that the dialogues were changed, the scenes, and so they just messed up with my story and still gave me the credit, but I wasn't happy. Like I couldn't even tell persons to go see the movie. So how do you handle that? And my second question is, how do you handle selling scripts that you've written, like selling script, like with selling of scripts, because it's actually difficult to write a script and send it out there. So that's the two questions I have.
Okay. First one is disappointment when they hey God, I beg. Bro, see, yeah, you see that disappointment? There's nothing to say. The higher you go, the worse it becomes. That's all I'm gonna say to you. But then one thing I want to correct is praise, right? When you send a story out, it's no longer yours. Okay? Once it goes out, it's no longer yours. Once you sell the idea, it's no longer yours. It's now the director's story. It is his narrative. So don't feel bad about it. It happens to the best of us. In fact, if I okay, God, it happens to all of us. I think the biggest problem with that is we don't have a lot of story. Like when I started, I said we don't have a lot of people that are willing to tell compelling stories. People do it for money, not for the passion, not because they have something to say, but just because they want to make money. And that's fine. I'm not coming to say, oh, why they wanted to make money. Me too. I came here because of money. Oh, I don't know why you came here, but money brought me here, and money is keeping me here. And God has been faithful. I would say, don't worry about it. Once you sell it and they make it, don't worry about it. You would grow to a point, and one of my senior colleagues, I wouldn't want to mention the jobs he's done, but he's done a lot of jobs. And when the writer's room, he's the head writer for the show that I'm working on. And he said something. He said, Emy, I've come to the point where money does not. I want somebody who would make my film and I will point it and say, I made this film. That's where he has gotten so. So he has made enough money, maybe, and he doesn't care about money anymore. But you and me, praise, that know that our daily bread comes from this writing. Sister me, write it, put it out there. It comes out good, great. It comes out bad. You say, okay, they have done it, and you move on. Just take it off of your mind. That's the first one. The second one is, interestingly, I was speaking to Bofa, and I told her that I would share this with those of you who are interested, and maybe she would. I don't know how this is going to work, but then they would. I think Even will be able to manage this. I run a script store where I sell scripts for emerging writers, and I've successfully been able to sell over 50 stories for different writers. So it's a simple thing. writers come to me with their stories. They send me the synopsis. I send it to producers. Producers like it. They send me. They say, "Oh, I like this story." I reach out to the writer. Is this written? It says this is what the producer is willing to pay. You like it? Do you want it? You say yes, and script changes hands. Money changes hands. That's it. So I'll be willing to do that for did I mention 2 or 3 persons before? But I don't know how they plan to do it. But I wouldn't want to do it for a lot of people because I have my own personal life and I don't want to take in more than I can handle. So maybe 2 or 3 persons, I'll be willing to sell scripts for them. But
Yeah.
yes, pretty much that's how it works. That's how it works. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Emmy. Yes, so we will. I think there's already people there. Praise has been um, on your case since the first class on the 9th. So yeah,
Oh,
we'll see about getting the contacts across to you or getting your contacts across to them. Thank you so much for that offer. Okay, so there's also I think I saw someone else before, but I don't know if their hand is still up. Who wanted to ask a question? Okay, Chloe, sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for the knowledge you just impacted in us today. Are you guys getting me?
mm-hmm.
Yes, we are.
Hello? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So my question is like a month ago I wrote a script and I found out that the supporting character was outshining the main character. Now this is about set of twins and I just let the story unfold on its own, and I
Mm-hmm.
discovered that the supporting character turned out to be the main character. Now I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to understand, is it my fault or is just how the story is supposed to be like?
Do you want to
I
hear the
mean,
truth
in
or
an interesting
pamper
way,
you?
in an interesting way.
Do you want to hear the truth or you want me to pamper you?
No, just tell me the truth.
It's your fault. It's your fault. So I say it's your fault because the person you're calling the supporting character is actually the main character, and you are insulting the character. You are looking at the character. You're
Oh,
looking down at the character. The character is looking at you and say, "Ah, it's me that have the story." You say, "Hey, it's not you that have the story because I don't know who you like the story." Yeah. So so that's another thing. I think that the reason why you had that is because the character that you call the supporting character was more developed
yeah,
than your
yeah.
own. So again, I told you, characters push the story. You know, you write to a point where the character is telling you, nah, I won't say that kind of thing. Nah, I won't say it. Change it. And you clean. Maybe if you say you did mad, character will be like, I won't say mad. I will say Chris. You clean. And you write Chris. So I think that's what happened.
Okay.
And that's fine. I think what you would have done when you noticed that was to buff up the supporting character to be the main character and then push back the other character to be supporting character. But then you didn't do that because I don't
Um,
think you
I
are.
think I was being partial
You
because
were
I'm a
acting
woman and I felt like I needed to push the woman forward and suppress the man's
like,
character.
why? Why? But I'm sure that going forward, again, I think that you could have been able to manage with characters. But again, I'm glad that you understand that you were being partial, and that sentiment can shine through sometimes through our writing because you like this character more. You know, I said something about how we will develop the protagonist and not develop the antagonist, and that's not being
Yeah,
fair. Sometimes the antagonist is even the person that has the story. It doesn't have to be actor and boss. It can be boss and actor. Boss can
yeah.
be actor can be pursuing boss. It's not always like so. Let the characters, speak through you the way they want. And maybe if you ever experience something like that again, just simply it's not a big deal. Just make the other character that feels like the supporting character, the lead character, and have the other character to like support. And it's fixed there.
All right. Thanks for the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions or comments? They don't have to be questions. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I let me see. Okay, Ivanova says thank you. Okay, so if you have a question or comment and you don't want to speak, or if you're not in a place where you can speak, you can drop it in the chat. So we'll be out of it in about 2 minutes because usually we have the class for just 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my question is, why do you guys write very sad stories out of this part of the world? It's like when stories are told from this continent or from this part of the country, you want your characters to suffer and suffer and suffer until there's like really nothing else to take. Or sometimes you can just tear your characters apart by yourself. Like in Tomi Adeyemi wrote Children of Blood and Bones, and in book one, it was all beautiful. By book two, she was tearing her characters apart so much that me, that was the reader, I could immediately tell that she's tearing them apart so that she can have material for book three. And book three is now on the way, was already out. Why can't we just tell her? Is that because I remember that you were saying it's not that easy. Like you talked about something and you said the reason why the character has to face this is because that's not how life is. Life's not a bed of roses. But sometimes can't people just, through stories and let it just end there? That's what I want.
So you can have true stories, but would it be compelling? That's the question. Would it be compelling? If I had through a 70 scene film, it can end in 15 minutes. If we're through in everything. Essentially, and this is a conversation that I just had over the weekend with some other writers. I also feel like a lot of films that come out of, and a lot of stories that come out of this side of the world is like suffer prone. We there's so much grief. We're writing so much about grief, and people are not exploring other genres. People are not trying to do things that, I see it, but the question that I think that I feel like it is just it's a trend. It's fun now. People are talking about grief, so it's fun. But I think that eventually this whole thing will blow over. Hopefully it blows over, because there was a time that everybody was going historical. And in fact, we're entering that time again where everybody's trying to tell period pieces. They're trying to go back in time, tell a story from the past and all of that. So the same way the grief stories are blowing everywhere right now, it will blow over. I feel like when something starts trending, before it was comedy, everybody was doing comedy. Now it's grief. After now, it's just trend. And I feel like essentially people, again, I think it's essentially what I said about how people have not sat with their emotions and their thoughts enough to know what they want to talk about. So everybody's talking about grief. Let me talk about grief. Everybody's talking about something funny. Let me say something funny. Everybody's saying historical pieces. Let me do an historical piece. That's basically what I think. I don't think there's any fundamental reason why that is happening. But then in terms of story structure and everything that I was explaining, it is true that we try to tell stories in line. We try to give our characters um, obstacles, and then we watch how they react with those obstacles and how they make themselves better.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens in our life. The higher you go, you have different, stages, you hit different milestones and you learn different things. You can't learn if you don't go through a process. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you for answering it that way. I think it gives me a new perspective. But now we have two more hands raised, so we will take those two questions.
Okay.
If we have any other questions, please let us know. But we'll take those two questions, and then we're just going to do a fun activity, and we will close. So please, Geraldine, the floor is yours.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good
My name
evening.
is Geraldine.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Emmy. That was a very impactful class. Unfortunately, I just realized, sorry to digress, I just realized that there have been other classes before this one, and I don't know how I missed those classes. I just got notified for this one and I'm here. So I'm not a film writer, I'm a poet, but I act, I'm an actor too. I'm a storyteller, basically, just like Emmy said. But so my question is, I have three questions. Emmy, how do you know, or when do you know when to draw the line? You spoke about, driving your main character into a hole. When do you know where to draw the line? That it doesn't get, because as when you're sitting on the other side of the screen, you're watching these films, and you find out that a particular character has been like this character is going through too much. I think it gets boring. It just gets disheartening. Do you understand? So how do you know where to draw the line? That's one. Two, this question borders around those people who just jump on on things. For example, the Equatorial Guinea man story
Mm,
that came out, and then people started churning out YouTube content already on that story that was just it just came out.
yeah.
Is there like a particular regulation that regulates these people? Because I think it just at the end of the day, if a lot of people do this, it makes the whole thing become a joke, like the whole industry, the film. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because you can't keep doing that. We are looking at watching and internalizing compelling stories, but when we and then the flyers are the thumbnails are always very crazy. Is there a particular body that regulates that?
Mm,
That's the third question. Sorry, my third question is, you spoke about trends now. Um, when everyone is going right and you're going left. So, like you said, okay, this particular period, comedy is trending, or grief is trending, and a lot of people are just diving into that and creating stories surrounding that. And then, like you said, for a story to be compelling, you have to have a strong opinion about it. You have to sit with it and have those emotions for you to be able to develop it qualitatively. If you're that person that don't like going with the trend, like I am, and you decide to go left, obviously the big question mark there is that you might not get as much value as regards maybe numbers, money coming in, as the other people who are going with the trend are getting. How do you regulate yourself in that situation? How do you stay focused and consistent and grounded? Is there some type of advice you have as regards that? Thank you.
okay. So the first question is when to draw the line. Uh,
Yeah.
to be honest, I'll give you the simplest answer: when film don't end. That's it. Though. When film.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be as practical as possible, and that's the truth. So
Yeah.
the show that I was telling you about, it's an African magic show. It's a 130 episodes. This is episode 60. You cannot be inside. I will write you inside that box the 120. uh So I think
Okay.
when we tell when the line is drawn in terms of how long the story is. A 130 episode, if I don't keep giving my character challenges, she will not have a story. It means she'll be out of the story. She'll be out of the film. They will kill the character, or get another character to replace her. So if I don't keep bringing up things that will make her relevant, and whatever, and the only way she can be relevant is if things keep happening to her, and we see how she overcomes those things. So things have to happen. Let me see how she will overcome. People like they say, you see what happened to her last week? Oh, more this girl this weekend she go tear Bessie slap. We want to see what she would do. How will she react? If it's a feature, and it's a 1 hour 30 minutes, I will keep writing you inside those problems till you reach the end, though, because that's the only way people want to watch you. It's easier for features than it is for series, because in series 130 episodes, 260 episodes, bro. If I'm just going to write one, it won't run for 130 episodes. Do you understand my point? But if it's a
Yeah.
feature, you can keep it within the 1 hour time frame, give her one problem, watch her unravel, and watch how she overcomes them till she gets to the end of it. I hope I answered that.
Okay, that makes
For
sense.
for a body that regulates trends like this, eco
Yeah.
guy, there's nobody, my sister. Nobody, especially on YouTube. YouTube is a rat house. YouTube is the actual ghetto. Nobody's regulating anything there. That's why they shoot in 3 days and put the film there the fourth day. Nobody looks at. Nobody's regulating. I hope that they'll start regulating, because I am part of the Producers Guild of Nigeria, and there's no conversation about regulating anybody as long as there's a regulatory body for TV, for cinema, for
Mhm.
all these other platforms, but not for YouTube. You can't
Because it's
regulate.
for making money.
Exactly. You can't
Okay.
tell. You tell the skit makers, unko.
No,
So
that's like skits. I'm talking about proper films, like
that's you can't. The ghetto. It's the ghetto. If it's a film, I know that I belong to the Producers Guild of Nigeria, and you cannot put a film without getting CAC. You have to be censored, and that censor
okay.
thing. Before you get censored, they'll watch the film and tell you if they like it, if they think the film is okay to be broadcasted. If they don't like it, they'll say NTBB not to be broadcast. But for
Yeah.
for YouTube, there's nothing like that yet. Your last question is, if everybody's going right and you decide to go left, if I have any advice for that. When people were doing a lot of comedy, do you know what Kemi Adetiba did? She did a crime show. A
Mm.
film that was 3 hours long. People sat in the cinema and they watched it. So I don't think there's a clear-cut way to say do it this way or do it that way. But I think that when it comes to issues that you're passionate about, for Kemi Adetiba, she was really passionate about telling a crime story, and people say that her film is a satire for some people that we know in Nigeria
Yeah.
that are now the
Yeah.
presidents of this nation. She was trying to tell, to give a
Yeah.
mock, yes. So
Expose the ills. Yeah.
exactly, that's what she was trying to do. So if you're passionate about something, go ahead and sell it. Like you said, you might not make a lot of money, but who cares? Maybe you have a lot of money already and you don't care about money.
Yeah, that's I think that's a great answer. Thank you. I think it even ties back to normal having passion for anything. Maybe it's
Exactly.
modeling, and you know how the industry is. It's a long shot. Do you understand? But if you have passion for it, to keep going and
Keep going.
yeah,
Now, Kemi
yeah,
Adetiba has done King of Boys, even though she needs to stop, but she has done a lot of it, and people will still watch it. King of Boys,
yeah,
if she does it again next year, we'll still watch it. Because when everybody was going right, she went left.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emmy.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So we have Ruth and now we have Eru as well. So Ruth, please, Emmy, Ruth, this you have like 1 minute or 50 seconds for
Okay.
the question and answer. Ruth, please go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so this
Hi.
is my first class. I only found out on Instagram story like a day or two ago. So
I can't
um
hear you, but I don't know
I
if
just
it's
wanted to say
you mentioned
I have a come up with promoting it like can you hear me? Hello?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. Okay, great. Okay, so I was saying that I worked on promotion for the theatrical release of the trade and had to interview the actors and everything. And it's a really great film. I was surprised by how good it was. But that's not my question. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to mention that. My question is about writing tangible characters. I've been thinking about that a lot and how to do that without so much self-insert, or if it was possible to like remove self-insert altogether. And if you're going to continuously write characters, like main characters, and make them very relatable, very real, and you want to look at real people around you, real life experiences, but how do you, like, I'm sure there's a way people can separate themselves and the lives around them from the fictional worlds they're trying to create, like even down to how your character like reacts or experiences emotions or their thought process. Like, how is that possible?
So I'll tell you a practical example that I use. Um, it's a what would Jesus do? So I would say what would the character do? I created a character over the last 2 weeks that is called Fumbi. And I will always ask myself, I'm not a Fumbi. I don't have the experiences that she had. I'm not, my father did not die the way her father died. My sister did not die the way her sister died. So if I was her and then I experienced these things, the things that she experienced, how would I react? And I think that's what has really helped me, because I just shared with you guys how I wrote her into a box and it was hard to crawl out of it. But I asked myself, if I was this girl and I have experienced everything this person has experienced, what will I do? How would I react to it? I feel like when you do that, um, it will really be helpful to you. But disclaimer, a lot of writers, I think we have multiple personality disorder. I will not lie, because you keep creating these characters, you keep being these characters. In time, the lines become very blurry. You're neither here nor there. But then, essentially, that's the job. That's what we decided to do with our lives, and God help us. I think that's something you can do that would be helpful.
Thank you so much. That's actually a very practical answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the final question from Eru. Eru, please go on. And I hope I'm calling your name right. Please go on.
Eru, I think you're muted if you're speaking.
Okay, I don't think Eru is available, but it's okay. So you can actually write back to us with the question. Our email address is allhaven@allbank.ng. That's the email we used to send you the mail about the class and the link, so you can actually join on that one. And so I think we've officially come to the end of the class. Amy, thank you so much.